right, Andrew Paterson here. A very special day for our friends and partners at Little Brown Jug, celebrating 5 years, and it's a pleasure to welcome in the founder of Little Brown Jug, Kevin Selch. Kevin, happy holidays and happy anniversary.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Well, it's a pleasure. We've had a great time working with you guys and being down here, and we thought, what a great chance to come down, maybe talk a little bit more about the great story of Little Brown Jug as you guys celebrate 5 years. Listen, before we talk about the beers and how you make it, I'm always interested in entrepreneurship stories. I mean, you're a guy from Winnipeg, but you pretty much left school at 18. You're a bureaucrat in Ottawa. How the heck did you end up back here crafting and making some of Manitoba's favorite beer?
That's a funny story. Yeah, I left at 18, went off to university, ended up working in Ottawa for 10 years as an economist there. But I wanted to come back to Winnipeg, and I had to think about how am I going to do that? And I was getting involved with local craft breweries in Ontario and Vermont. And I visited enough of them that I figured I could probably figure it out. So I wrote a business plan and came back to Winnipeg and found this great place in the Exchange and started making beer.
Well, this is such a cool spot here on William Avenue. We'll talk a little bit more about it and the beer, but tell us about starting the business. I imagine, we hear so much. It doesn't really matter what business you start, but there's so much work that goes into it before you actually, tap a keg or crack a can.
Yeah, opening a brewery is pretty interesting because you can't just dip your toe into it. You're either all in or all out, right? And getting sort of a landlord and some investors and equipment and a beer and a brewer all lined up was quite the feat to make it all launch at once. And of course, this building, which is quite the renovation project, working with the landlord on it, but it's turned out beautifully. We've made it into something really unique.
It certainly has. Now, I think most people are familiar, if they're not, they should be, with the iconic brand of Little Brown Jug, the 1919. Certainly there are more beers now, but you really started off, fill us in on figuring out what the 19 was going to be and finally getting that thing on the production line.
Yeah, so I used to drink this beer in Vermont that just reminded me of on a hot day, you just want to come home and crack that thing open. So that's really what it was meant to be, that feeling of can't wait that I can crack open that beer in my fridge. And then really for us as a business, we just want to focus on doing one thing really, really well. And the interesting thing about it is when we launched and we beat the pavement and we hustled to get different restaurants to carry our product, we had those tulip glasses, and that was pretty interesting to see. And pretty exciting for me to see Winnipeggers who had, we had just started sort of a second wave of new craft breweries opening up here, but to see people drinking this amber-colored liquid out of a tulip glass was pretty iconic. So I'm pretty proud of that and pretty excited how it was embraced.
And the tulip glasses, if you order a 1990 pretty much anywhere in the city, you'll get that. Unless you're grabbing a quick can for a tailgate or something like that. Make sure you use the tulip glass. It kind of takes it to another level. The process of brewing beer, if you can, for people that, are wondering about this stuff, let's talk about 1919. What goes into making a 1919 from Little Brown Jug?
Sure. So most of our base malts are all Canadian Pilsen malts, and then we use some Franco-Belge and other specialty malts for the flavors and the unique aromas on it. So there's basically 4 steps in a brewing process. You mash in, so you basically heat up the grain that you've crushed to start converting the starches into sugars. Then you transfer it to a lauter tun and you start extracting those sugars away from the grain through a false bottom mesh. Then you boil the brew, and that's when you add some hops usually. And then you whirlpool it. So you spin a lot of the stuff out of it that's sort of suspended in it. And then it's going into a fermenter with yeast for, if it's an ale, about 2 weeks. If it's a lager, 4. And then we centrifuge our beer, so we clarify it that way, and then we package it. So all in, it's about 2 to 4 weeks, depending on what we're making. 2
to 4 weeks, the process from getting it going till it's finally ready to be enjoyed by Winnipeggers, people around Manitoba, and if they're lucky, outside the province as well. You focused on 1919, obviously, and you just said you wanted to do something well and do it, but at a certain point, it was well established, it was growing. Tell us about the process of expanding the Little Brown Jug line and adding some of the new beers that have become favorites for people as well.
Yeah, sure. So we started experimenting with a few other beers, the Golden Ale, our IPA, and then, but really we had one other beer at a time. And then with the pandemic coming on, we were able to move quickly and get a lot of those beers that we had started to make into cans and come out with a variety pack. And then since then, we've just continued to roll out more and more beers.
I have to ask you about the pandemic. I mean, everyone has been affected in different ways. Hospitality, that sort of business has really been impacted. But at the same time, I imagine that there were some opportunities from your end to maybe take advantage of it, as you just mentioned, and try to make the best out of it.
Yeah, for sure. It was a challenging time for us, but it was a much more difficult time for the restaurant industry because we at least had products in cans, so we could sell it through we could sell it through the liquor marts and beer vendors and out of here. We launched a home delivery service in about a week, and that all kind of shut down, and we haven't really stopped doing that. So that was really important. And more than anything, Winnipeggers really came through for us and for the whole local industry. I think it was pretty amazing as soon as the lockdown started to happen that people came out and supported the industry the best they could.
So, listen, I'm a huge fan of the 1919. I think that is what people are most familiar with. For people that haven't tried it, give us a little rundown of the 1919, and maybe if you could as well, talk about some of the other beers from Little Brown Jug that are available and what makes them special and why they made the cut.
Sure. Well, the 1919, kind of like I described at the beginning, is an easy drinking, everyday Belgian pale ale. And so it's strawberry blonde in color. It kind of has notes of baked bread and stuff, but it's pretty accessible. And that's really what we love about that beer, is that even if you're not a big craft beer drinker, you're probably going to like this beer. And the other interesting thing about it is about half of our customers are women. So even people who drink wine or drink other products, that don't think that they love beer, it's a pretty even split for us on that. And that's something I'm pretty proud of, because that's not what you think of as the beer industry's main customer.
Now, I mean, there's a bunch of others. There's some of your other favorites, and maybe touch on the new double. I had one last night, a little bit of a stronger beer, but man, it's just great for this time of year, I have to say.
Yeah, well, this fall we came out with some strong beers. So we came out with a Belgian double at 7.2, kind of like dried cherry notes, very kind of like port almost feel to it. And then for our anniversary beer, we came out with an 8% Brut IPA. So it's almost like champagne-like, really light in color, highly carbonated, and very, very dry.
And that Brut IPA, I mean, that is basically brand new off the line, celebrating the 50th anniversary, which of course is coming up this Friday. I'm sure people will be enjoying that here on Friday here, as well as through the website here at William Avenue and in beer stores.
Yeah, beer stores, a few LCs, and definitely from us through our website or picking it up front of house. What
about you personally? I mean, of everything that you guys have produced, what's been your favorite?
Well, it has to be the 1919. But if it's not the 1919, my two favorites are like Golden Ale, which we make with Manitoba honey. And then the second one that I really love is our black lager. So it's a black lager. You think it's going to be heavy, but it's a lager and it's very, very light tasting.
You know what? I have to say, I was the exact same way, and I was a person that really kind of drank much more lighter beers. I really loved the 1919. That was my go-to. And I was a little intimidated by the black lager, and then I tried it. I mean, relatively light, 5% beer. I mean, this isn't molasses with some carbonation in it by any stretch of the imagination.
No, definitely. People think it's going to be a lot heavier, and that's actually, the image on it is like Lady Justice holding the scales, and that's to kind of be like, if you were blindfolded, you wouldn't know that you were drinking this dark lager.
Kevin, let's talk about what you're working on right now. Of course, we're just getting into the holiday season, a huge month for the hospitality industry, certainly the beer industry. I know the tap room is going to be busy throughout, but fill us in on a very busy anniversary month for the folks here at Little Brown Jug.
Yeah, we just have a lot going on. We've been programming our tap room with all kinds of activities, and this Friday is going to be a big night for us, having our 5th year anniversary from 6 p.m. till midnight. We have bands and food, and it'll be a really good time. The crew's been working so hard, like ramping up for December, cranking out the beer, packaging, like the most beer I think we've ever packaged in a month. So just getting ready for December.
Kevin, we've talked a lot about 5 years in the business and the beers. I know two things that are important to you that we have to hit before we finish up is both the building and your team, the people behind Little Brown Jug. I mean, this is an unbelievable place. Every time we come here, I mean, you guys have done new things to it. We can see how busy it is right now with business really ramping up for December. But if you could tell us a little bit about Little Brown Jug HQ, the tap room, as well as everything that goes on kind of behind us right now.
Yeah, this is the home of Little Brown Jug. It's an old livery stable that used to have horses for City Hall. It had a number of different iterations over the years, but when we found it, it was a little bit boarded up. There was an apartment above here, drop ceiling in the back. We had to really gut this place. We insulated it from the outside, added all kinds of energy savings measures, and we're able to reuse all of our process heat to heat the building in the wintertime. So it's pretty neat that way. We started with just 2 little tanks in the corner when we opened, and all of this space behind me was empty. And people would come in and say, like, you have a lot of space here. What are you going to do with it? And here we've been lucky to be able to fill it with a lot of steel. So,
well, and filling it with a lot of people too. I mean, it really has become a really cool meeting place as well. I mean, in the summer, obviously we're in the winter right now. The patio isn't quite rocking like it normally is, but a great spot. And here for so many community events as well. I mean, you guys have been partnered up with all sorts of charities, community organizations, and I imagine this was something that you were sort of, envisioning when not only you started Little Brown Jug, but put it right here on William Avenue in a developing area of the city.
That was so important, to be in the exchange, to be in the heart of the city, and then to use our space and our resources to make an impact. So just allowing people to use this space for the community, whatever events, whatever charity they need to use it for, or celebration. The idea is we don't close down a lot, but we just like to be an inclusive space for everyone.
Hey, Kevin, when we mentioned about the facility, and I encourage people, you got to come down and check it here for yourself. You can pick up all the great beers. You can have a couple. You can have a good time with your friends. But more so than the product you guys make and the building that we're in, I know how important is your team and the people behind Little Brown Jug that have grown over the years. I mean, tell us just a little bit before we finish up about the people that have helped you get to this point 5 years in.
Absolutely. So like after 5 years, I'd say that the thing I'm most proud of is our team. We started with 3 people. We're up to 24. As we grow, like more specialized roles, more training, we have a really positive work culture, and it's because of the people we have here. So I'm very, very proud of this team. I couldn't have done it without them. And, starting the business, it's a lot about the technical operational elements of how you make the beer, put it in a can, but I think with the pandemic, I became a bit of a reluctant leader, where it's now all about leading the team and the health of the team and supporting our people.
Well, I've always loved dealing with everyone down here, from you to Dustin, the gang that are pouring beers here, and of course the ones that are getting the Little Brown Jug out to the beer stores and restaurants in and around Manitoba. Before we go, congratulations again on 5 years.
Thank you.
What's next for the next 5 years for Little Brown Jug? Have you thought too much about going into 2022 and beyond?
Yeah, we're trying to do, we're going to spend a lot of time doing that planning now that we're kind of hopefully coming out of things. And we're in Saskatchewan right now, and we just want to keep serving Winnipeg right now and serving Manitoba.
Well, I can tell you on behalf of Michael and I here at Winnipeg Sports Talk, it's been amazing working with you guys. We hope to continue doing that for a long time. And there's not many sponsors that get a better run from our listeners on the show and when we're out in the community than our friends at Little Brown Jug. So congratulations again on 5 years. Thanks for having us down, and here's to 5 and many more for you and the team here on William Avenue.
Thanks, Andrew.